Slowly it rises.
Hey, it's ODB, the Lincoln Addict. I want to give you an update on Mecum auctions. Then we'll take a quick preview of New Orleans 2023, which is coming up very soon. Last weekend, Mecum auctions in Dallas, they ran through their new event. I think it was technically the first annual or inaugural, if you will. And what I wanted to do is circle back on some of these sales and some of the cars that did not sell. I had intended to go through more of these to kind of give you guys those either previews or deep dives, as I call them, but I just didn't end up having the time. So there's about 6, I think. So I just want to take a quick look at these. And again, then we'll look at New Orleans, Barrett-Jackson to kind of see what we have going on here, or what we have going on there, so to speak. Now, what I've done is I've already taken the liberty to go to auctions. You can view results. You could filter it down to Dallas. And then you see I've typed Lincoln. You can obviously type Lincoln Continental, but I just typed Lincoln just for you guys to kind of see the landscape. Now, first off, I know this guy, Gary, I believe is his name. I've seen this car in person, and this is a very unique car. Here's the thing. It's a sedan. You're going to see it in this upper left corner. It has an LS3, so I do know that is somewhat of a turnoff for some because of the fact that it is not a Ford or Lincoln product, if you will, in terms of the drivetrain. But this car actually got up to $60,000. The bid goes on. Now, I recall that he did have this for sale for much more than that price, but I just wanted to kind of scan through it and kind of show you guys. Basically, pretty cool car. You can see there the drivetrain looks like it does have AC, and pretty cool interior. If I remember correctly, the interior is mostly stock except for the console and the trunk. But basically, these sedans they're getting up there in price, but to see $60,000 and it not sell, obviously I do believe that Gary wanted more for it, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. So for whatever reason he thought that the car should go for more, and it is a cool car. I think the most unique thing about it is it has this huge rear offset wheel. So again, I know this isn't for everyone, but certainly to narrow the rear axle to be able to get kind of this meat, if you will, and tub this thing, if that makes sense to you, to put this big of a wheel and tire underneath, it takes some work. So pretty cool car. Not sure if he's just going to hold off, if you will, or hold out rather, for something more down the road. But $60,000 for a sedan, it's too bad that it couldn't go. But that's the way these things go sometimes. Now, this one was kind of surprising to me. This one hit 100,000, what you see, and the bid goes on, which I've always understood that to mean that it just didn't sell. The bid goes on, maybe they'll make a deal afterwards or whatnot. But, I did go through this one, if I remember correctly. I think I did a quick review on it. Cool car, a little bit custom, nothing too crazy in terms of the suspension and things like that, but certainly it does have that custom look. Really surprised, in my opinion, that 100,000, wouldn't have let that thing go. Obviously, maybe they're going to take it to another auction and try to get more. So we'll have to kind of see. Now, I'm not going to click on this one, but this 79 Lincoln Continental Batmobile replica fiberglass body, this thing came in at 154,000. So obviously the original Batmobile was framed around, I believe it was the Futura. I believe I always kind of get that mixed up in my mind, but that's worth noting. Of course, this one was built off of a 79 Lincoln, so kind of cool. 154,000, a lot of money. Speaking of a lot of money, you have a 63 Lincoln Continental. Again, you're going to see here LS3. That is something that's becoming very popular. I know the purists don't necessarily like that. A lot of, people that are Ford or Lincoln fans in general, some love it, some don't. But this sedan hit 51, almost 52 grand. So we are continuing to see the sedan prices increase. Obviously, you can see here it is lowered, so it's airbagged. And it just has that look. It's not a black Lincoln, which it may have even brought more money if it was. A lot of people want a black Lincoln. It has I forget if these are the Raceline wheels that kind of look like it, or these might be there's another brand out there, US Mags. You see a little bit of possibly curb rash here. And you can see they've recently waxed this thing, and you can see a little bit of the residue there and whatnot. You got kick panels and pretty nice clean car, cruiser certainly. And then this one does have, as I said, the LS3. So 50 plus thousand on a sedan, pretty solid, pretty cool looking car. Again, not for everyone. One of the biggest surprises to me was this one. Now I do have a gentleman, and I apologize, the name's escaping my mind right now, big supporter of the channel. He was boots on the ground, and I believe he said he looked at this car, and he said it kind of felt and looked original. So that's a plus, I think, in many ways. 41,000 just beneath that. It sells, and so often people are looking for convertibles, and when, one sells for 50 or 60 or 80 grand, they go, oh, I'll never be able to attain one. I'll never be able to find one. If this thing was original, and let's say it needed a lot, okay, I don't want to say everything, but oftentimes they need a lot. Even at 40 grand for a triple black Lincoln, obviously some work done, as when I did kind of the deeper dive on it, the seats aren't all original. There's some things about it, but certainly 40,700. That to me is a good deal. 65 is very desirable year. Now, keep in mind, we only see what we see. So certainly if somebody went there and maybe it was rusty on the bottom, or there was something that was a turnoff, that certainly would have driven the price to the point that, hey, 40 grand, someone felt comfortable with that number. But if it was a solid car, certainly I think it was a good deal. Here's another surprise. I don't think I did a deep dive on this one. There's so many I forget. But this is a 63 with a 64, I'll say front end grille, if you will. And, this is something that's real big in the truck scene. When a newer model comes out, you buy the newer front end and you bolt it on. And, obviously it's kind of gives it the newer look. Same thing with JFK's limo, the SS 100X. That obviously became, it stayed in service, but that was a 61 that eventually got a 62 front end. So it's not unheard of to change these type of things, and you could always easily go backwards if you wanted to. But this thing got up to 100 grand, and another one that just did not sell. So, my guess is the price was higher. But if you look at some of these things, you kind of go, okay, it's not a perfect car. Sometimes, this person could easily have 100 grand in this car, believe it or not. But to me, you start to get the six figures, even without, a car that's perfect. Sometimes you kind of go, man, are you going to be able to get more than that? Pretty nice, I would say, overall presentation on this one in terms of underneath the photos and whatnot, but definitely surprising. Someone that's got a huge collection, or they got a bunch of money, they might be able to sit on this longer, maybe think they're going to get 120, 150, but you'd have to imagine the transport fees and things like that, and whatever the fees are to run it across the block, there's those costs that are incurred. Has a Washington plate, so not really sure if that's actually where the car is from or whatnot, but definitely a surprise. Now, here's another convertible. A bid goes on. This one got to 53,000. I thought this one would go higher. Again, the gentleman who oftentimes, I really appreciate your support. This car to me, and I think he even said that, he scoped it out. He said, I think, if I remember correctly, the photos kind of did it a little bit more justice. And the reason why I wanted to point that out is that is often the thing that I'm trying to reinforce to people. Like, even when I looked at this car, I go, the car does look nice to me. And again, if you get a car where everything is perfect, it's going to drive the price up. You might go, hey, I'm willing to spend 70 grand for a car that's been gone through, that has 100 grand in it. Yeah, absolutely. But, sometimes to get a true kind of untouched car, something that's more original, to be able to come in at 40 or 50 grand and then be able to stair step up and do those things to make it even a nicer car, get a return on investment in the future, isn't necessarily a bad thing. But what I would say about this car is, to me, it presents well in the photos, okay? To be boots on the ground, to get up underneath it, scope it out, take a look, some of the things I mentioned when I did the deeper dive, that's what obviously I believe he did. The bid goes on, $53,000. I mean, I thought it would have been a seller at that amount, but just to reinforce, that is one good thing about Mecum. You can set a reserve. So I think that that's very important. Not everyone knows that. Mecum, you can. We're going to look at Barrett-Jackson here in a second for a quick preview. But, when you look at these cars, to me, they're some solid prices. I mean, definitely some good bids. I don't know if we're going to see things flatten out a little bit. I know with some of the interest rates and, some people look at the economy and the stock market and some of those things and go, wow, are we going to be okay here the next few months in terms of, housing and cars and all that kind of stuff? We'll have to kind of see. But I think the biggest thing for me was, you could have went and bought a 65 Lincoln Continental convertible. Granted, we haven't seen underneath it. Sells for just under $41K. And then you have a 66, which arguably 1 year later isn't as desirable. It gets up to $13,000 more. Let's call it $12,000 more. And it doesn't sell. It's a bid goes on. So the market can be very wacky sometimes. Now, if we look at New Orleans, aka New Orleans, 2023, this one's coming up this coming weekend. So I wanted to do this quick video. This thing's really unique. I'm not going to necessarily click on it, but a 79 custom, you could just see here from the thumbnail, it looks pretty wild. I may do a little bit deeper dives on some of these. I think I went through this guy here, the 65, which is one that I'm really anxious to see. But let's take a quick look. We've got the 67, black. You got the nice blue, which was the factory color for those years and whatnot, in front of a nice garage there. So we'll have to kind of see what this one does. But there's a 67. The other reason why I'm pointing this out is sometimes you guys are maybe not looking at this stuff as much as I am, so you might be in the market for one of these cars, so I'm doing that kind of quick overview. This thing's really wild, a 66 custom topless roadster. This is not going to be for your average person simply because it doesn't have a roof. Obviously, it has that wild look. Looks like to me they took a coupe and cut it down without really going into too much detail, but very unique. It might appeal to someone depending on where you live, but kind of wild there. This was the 65. I think this will be the top gun, I believe, of this Barrett-Jackson in terms of a Lincoln because of the custom resto mod status that this car holds. It's a California. Well, it's been out in California for a long time. I don't know that it's an actual California car. I would assume that it is. But there's a lot of stuff. If you want to see a little bit more on this one, I did a video about it. And they're saying that, if you tally all the receipts, easily 150 in this thing. The biggest difference in it is simply that it has a Coyote engine. So these, sometimes people will ask, what is a Coyote? This is if you went to your local Ford dealer and you lifted the hood on a certain year Mustang, this is the engine that you would see, right? So it kind of has that distinctive look with these kind of covers and whatnot. But this might be for you. Maybe it's not. You see the big ECU over here, or the kind of the computer, as they often call it. But certainly this thing's going to have a lot of power. It's going to give you more of that modern feel in terms of the drive. Here's a 66. And with this one, again, it presents really well. It looks nice. It has the Detroit Steel Wheel Co. wheels, also known as Mob Steel. We can see that some things have been redone on this one. I believe I did a review on this one. And again, I love this look. Even if it's airbagged and it's raised up like that, or if it's just stock on those wheels, I think it looks cool. You can always change it back, but it does have air ride on it. So there's that one as well. And then last but not least, you have the 66 Continental. I really like the color on it. I did see they posted, I believe, this one in their social media. Of course, you had a lot of folks chime in saying, hey, I don't like the wheels. and some other things, but mostly the wheels themselves were the things that people said that they would change. You can see here kind of a truer, original style interior, which I think is good in many ways. Someone probably picked this car up, maybe reshot the paint. Maybe the paint was nice and they just buffed it. They threw some wheels on it and maybe they'll make some money. We'll have to see. But the good thing is it's still got the 462. You could either throw a different set of wheels on it. You could airbag it. You could cruise it or put it back to completely stock. Those are a few of the cars that I wanted to share with you guys. Again, Mecum. These are the results. And then Barrett-Jackson. You can go on both of these websites. I have no direct connection to any of these sellers or either of these websites. If you want to find more, check out my website, LincolnAddict.com. You can find ways to listen to my free podcast. I'm working on the new episode now, so appreciate all the support. And I guess in closing, look at this crazy thing. Everyone take care. Let me know what you think in the comments. Peace.